Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a paid advertising. TheOnlyGround.com, the THE onlyground.com is one of the most amazing places for information that I consistently go to. If you guys want to have conversations about our old interviews or even topics that we don't discuss, the group of people that are on the onlyground.com message boards are some of the most brilliant that I have ever come across. Those little like knick-knack facts that we get here and there, that's where a lot of it comes from. Please check out the link in the bio.
Welcome to the show. I am MMA insider and Herb Dean's dog sitter, Joey Venti, and you're listening to the MMA History Podcast, the only podcast dedicated 100% to the preservation of mixed martial arts history. Interviews and stories about the early days of MMA direct from the men who lived it. Hundreds of interviews, thousands of hours of research, all conducted by the most obsessed mind in the business, the MMA detective Mike Davis. Join us as we document the history of the sport we all love.
Welcome, everybody, to the MMA History Podcast. If you're tuning in and you haven't seen me before, my name is Matt Giancarlo. I'm a good friend of Mike Davis. Today, we have a jiu-jitsu legend, a serious Brazilian jiu-jitsu grappler turned MMA who has an incredible story. And he ended up fighting for a UFC title, but his track record getting there is just incredible, and his credentials and his grappling and his mixed martial arts. We're super excited to have him, Wilson Reis.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Wilson, welcome, brother.
Thank you.
So your journey, we always like to, on this podcast, like when you talk about like superheroes, the coolest part, in my opinion, is like how they got their magical powers. So like we like to start at the beginning. So it's like the tree and the fruit is incredible, but the roots are the most important. But with you, I think I kind of want to move things around a little bit. So let's talk about like styles. Could you tell us the difference between your opinion of the difference between American Jiu-Jitsu and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
I mean, all depends, every camp, every gym is different, every affiliation, but I feel like, the difference back in the day used to be that, the Americans, because the sambo, the no-gi, they have been doing no-gi longer. So be really good at footlocks and stuff. And it took us a while to catch up to the footlock game and everything, footlocks. But I feel like nowadays, man, it's pretty equal, The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and American Jiu-Jitsu, there's a lot of great fighters, from all over the world,
So, Matt, in our pre-interview, we had talked about some of the names that Wilson beat once he came to the United States. Would you mind rattling off a few of those?
Yeah, and specifically Americans. I mean, all right. When you got to America, and I believe you left, which we'll probably get into this later, but you left from Brazil the day you get your black belt. You end up facing Americans in jiu-jitsu matches that some of them were before they became household names, but like the names that really stuck out to me were, I believe on multiple occasions you faced Ryan Hall.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I was there
like
for one of
occasions,
them.
I think.
You faced Jeff Glover. You
Yes.
faced a young Gary Tonin who ended up becoming an absolute wizard.
Yeah.
Beat him. And then you beat JT Torres as well, who's also one of the greatest in his right. And one, I don't think a lot of people realize that about you. And two, what were what I want to know is what were those adjustments that you were making when you got to the States and kind of facing a different style of grappler?
So the biggest thing was just like more no-gi. When I lived in Brazil, before I got my black belt, all I trained was gi. I never really trained no-gi. So when I came to Philadelphia, my great friend, Jared Weiner, he invited me to move to Philly. And then I said, man, there's not much like black belts in the area. So unless you compete like IBJJF, you're not going to get any like gi mats, black belt, So you're going to have to, if you want to stay busy, you're going to have to compete no gi, So that's why I start doing back then, grappler class was very, very big. So doing probably all those guys, I fought them a grappler class. And here and then those guys will do like a super fight, they'll do like a local tournament. I'll travel everywhere too, But it was also, man, I feel like GT was a cool one because GT, man, like GT was also younger. And GT was probably like 16 years old. He was beating all the black belts at the time. And I just have to make, I love stand-up like wrestling, like judo takedown. I think that when I moved to Philly, I got to train great wrestlers. So I think that was huge adjustment that I made on my game, my takedown game, and the top passing. That's when I did the Wilson pass, the São Paulo pass, and all that. So all like man, it was I adapted pretty quick and pretty well as well. I liked.
How were you on the road traveling? You mentioned that because I know for sure I was at one of your super fights at the Extreme Grappling Open in Indianapolis, Indiana. You faced, I think it was a super fight, but I know you faced Tulio Perron, who is Brazilian as well, who is really tough. I trained with him once as a teenager, and I saw you kind of just completely dominate him, and that's how you got on my radar, just like as an admirer.
Yeah, I used to compete with someone named James something. I forgot James' last name.
James Klingerman.
Yes. He's a cool dude, man. I used to go to his gym to seminars and stuff. So the first very one I did, I think it was 07. I think that was the first time I beat Ryan Hall, was the finals of the pro division.
Yes, yeah, I was there for that. I competed as well.
Yeah,
White belt division at the time for me, but yeah.
Yeah, it's cool because my friends Jenna Bishop and her husband, that they were at the tournament as well. I think they used to train under the same guys. Yeah, man, I feel like the no gi, the no gi. I think I just trained so back then I was fresh from Brazil. My competition game was very, very sharp. And I competed training in Philadelphia. I got to definitely, like up my wrestling and everything. So, just stay busy, man. I'll just try to compete pretty much every weekend if I could, So it was really cool. Stay busy, and then had a good train, with Jared Weiner and his gym in Philadelphia. I'll cross train a little bit too with Lloyd Irvin camp down in Maryland, so had a good trend back then.
So Matt listed 4 legendary American grapplers. You got Ryan Hall, Gary Tonin, JT Torres, Jeff Glover. Power rank those 4. Who was the hardest? And work your way down?
I think, man, like Ryan Hall, he's the one that I knew that I couldn't make a mistake. He had the footlog game really well. One of the times that we fought 3 times, I beat him like both times. He beat him pretty close on points, and then I think in Vegas I swept in a passer's guard. That was a good one. But in one tournament in Virginia, I made one mistake. Like that passing the guy, he took my back and he choked me out. So he was just very dangerous. So I knew I couldn't make a mistake with him. And then when I did, I paid for it. So I feel like him and all those guys, man. Like back then, I would say Ryan Hall has a dangerous game. Nowadays, I'll just say GT. Because GT, he became what he became. He's pretty well-rounded grappler.
Ryan Hall, JT. Who comes in at number 3?
Number 3, I would say Ryan Hall. Yeah. No, sorry. Ryan Hall, GT. I'll say Jeff Glover.
And then Gary Tonin was at number 4. Man, I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was like
this was back then. Right back then, if I was go to jail, it would be a different story. Yeah, but
pre-Danaher Death Squad. Gary was young at the time. I mean, he's younger than I am. I think he's 34 right now. Yeah. I think I'm pretty sure he was training with Tom DeBlass at the time.
Yeah,
before he went over to John's. But yeah, I mean,
they did that. I fought him. It was heavy. It was absolute, and in grappler class. And I think I got to fight Joan Cease in the finals. He just killed me, man. He was so much stronger in the footlog game. But with Gary, I was just like, no, I'm just gonna have fun, And I was able to get the sweeps, and I think he just got confused in my half guard game and everything. Because I think I swept him a couple of times. Maybe I passed his guy. I don't remember, but I remember that, man. He look at him, his game after, he became more like sharper towards the submissions. He would attack a lot more than he did, when we fought.
Yeah, I mean, the 4 legendary names. All right, so let's kind of bring it back to the beginning. What is your start with jiu-jitsu?
Man, I started jiu-jitsu when I was in Brazil. I started judo. First I started kickboxing when I was probably 10 years old, 11. And then I started judo, 11, 12. And then 13, I started jiu-jitsu. I started between going 13 to 14, I started jiu-jitsu. I really love judo, man. I was really well in judo. But then when I go compete in judo, I always fight against higher belts, And I said, man, that's kind of nice, not fair, you know. And I went to jiu-jitsu. A friend of mine is on jiu-jitsu. I went to his gym, and then I did my first competition in jiu-jitsu, and I was white belt versus white belt. So I felt that jiu-jitsu was more fair towards competition, you know, and I really want to compete. So that's why I choose jiu-jitsu over judo for that reason. And I'm glad that I did, you know. And then from that point on, I started competing every weekend. You know, that was the beginning of everything. And I started traveling for the local tournaments, started going over to all the states for the national championships. And then first time I came to America was Pan Am's, Pan Americans in 2001. So I was 16, then blue belt,
Oh wow.
juvenile. Yeah. So then that was the first time I competed in America. I compete blue belt juvenile, I think 2001, 2001, 2002, I came as a purple belt already. And then I came. So purple belt is the only belt I stayed 2 years. So I came 2002 and three, 2002 and 2003. Pan Am's in one was in Orlando, the one was in California, Santa Barbara, and then '04. That's when I decided to move to America. In the end, in 2004, I won the worlds as a brown belt. In the Brazilian national, I got second place, and I won pretty much every other tournament, the local ones. So my coach promoted me that year as a black belt, 2004. So right around that time, I had the offer to move to Philadelphia to help my friend at his gym and just to live there. So I decided to do that, you know. And
Oh,
that was the
oh,
beginning of my American journey.
sure. But your first day, do you walk into Roberto Godoi and Macaco's gym, or are you somewhere else?
No, no. So my first day ever, I started in a gym. It was Companhia Paulista. You know, Cia Paulista was a pretty popular camp in Brazil, especially São Paulo. I started there with Ernesto Didio. He was a brown belt at the time. From there, I found a gym near my house, close another Cia Paulista affiliation with Bandeira. Remember that Roberto Bandeira his name, and then after that, I went to another camp, AM. It was Artur and Marcio, black belts, and the Bering Jiu-Jitsu. And then at that
Oh
time, I think I
wow.
was yellow belt, you know. So when I was yellow belt, I went to Godoi and Macaco. Yeah, this is the first January of 2000. That's when I first trained at Godoi and Macaco.
So Godoi and Macaco at the time, they grew up next door neighbors. They're
Yes,
they're best
we're like
friends.
best friends. Yeah.
What was the atmosphere like in the gym before? Obviously, it got bad.
Man, it was really good, man. You know, like they split the schedule, right? So Macaco was in the morning. He would teach the morning class. He would teach the noon class, which is the most Macaco's most famous class was the noon class every day. Super hard, you know. He was super like man, like tough leader, you know. And Godoi would come in at 5 p.m. He teach 5 p.m., 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. That was his class. You know, so kind of like when they split, it was kind of like, you know, the gym split, right? The morning guys went to Macaco and then the afternoon guys stayed with Godoi, you know. And then I was a teenager at the time, I was 15, I was 16. And with teenager, we train at 3 p.m. So we train at 3 p.m. And a couple of times I'll go to Godoy's training, you know, at 5. But Macaco was the the one that gave me the scholarship, you know, to train for free at Godoi Macaco because I was sponsored by Bad Boy at the time, and he had a deal with the Bad Boy, so they gave me a chance, and I was yellow belt, and then they gave my orange belt there, and that was kind of like hard to make the decision and who I would stay with, you know, and I just thought that Godoy would be a better master because he was always at the gym, he was always there, and in Macaco he's still fighting full time. So he would travel time to time and he would do training camps and stuff. So I felt that Godoy was gonna be a for a coach and mentor would be more fitable at the time, and it was a decision that I never regret. You know.
Here, you just said a lot there. When those two split, you got let's kind of set the table so people can understand the context. So Macaco gives you a scholarship to train there.
Yes.
Godoi is literally known for being one of the best jiu-jitsu teachers in the world.
Yes.
Now you look at Macaco in terms of MMA, that's Charles DeBronk's trainer.
Yes. Amazing coach. Yeah.
So you've got like a two-headed monster between MMA and jiu-jitsu right there.
Yeah.
That were best friends at one point.
Yeah.
What was the reason for the split? that
Man,
you know?
to be quite honest, I never touched that subject. I know there was a lot. It wasn't one thing. It just things building up over the years. You know, imagine, man, they're the only guys that from São Paulo that had the best gym at the time. The Godoi and Macaco was one of the biggest camp. You know, biggest camp in São Paulo and the hottest camp in São Paulo. They got the best fighters. You know, all the guys that win everything, and they're the only ones that came. They're from São Paulo. Everybody else that brought jiu-jitsu to São Paulo was from Rio, from different states. You know, they're from their
Yeah.
originals from São Paulo. So because of that, they're very famous and popular. A lot of money, a lot of media and stuff. And I know, I think just they were also young fighters at the time, young, business player. They became business partners, so a lot of things involved, you know. So but they unfortunately they did, and I'm pretty sure they're both older now, you know. And I think if they cross path, they'll talk to one another. I feel like, 'cause they have so many history. If you talk to either, and everything that they did back then were together, so they got so many history together, you know.
Yeah, and Matt, it's like they came around at a time where it was, Brazilian top team, Gracie Barra. It was all
Right.
these established names,
Yeah,
and these two local cats go, okay, well, we're just
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
see who's within driving distance to our
yeah.
gym,
Yeah.
and
Even to
then
this day, people have like Godoi Macaco shirt. There's like, man, there's like they worth so much money because it was such it was so big, you know. And unfortunately, it was too much success, and they couldn't handle, you know. But I still have friends from they still Macaco, but here and then we try to, we cross path and we talk about back in the days. We still have a logo and a T-shirt now because it's such a special team, you know.
And to imagine what it could have been, as he's
Yes.
mentioning Brazilian top, you know what I mean? If there was no split.
Yes.
Wow.
yeah,
Crazy.
yeah, and like essentially it's you got an incredible band with two lead singers. There's gonna be some arguments and fights, and like it was the clash was so like ferocious that it made local news. Like
Yes, it
they
did.
they
Yeah.
it made local news. They had two grappling matches. They ended up with an MMA match, and
Yeah, I mean their match, their MMA match was that I think before UFC came to Brazil, it was the highest purse anybody got paid MMA. I think they each got like 100,000 reais for Brazil. That's a lot of money each, just for that fight. And every time they fought, man, it was crazy because you have to amp up the security because both teams have so many fighters, and then and a couple of times it result to a fight, bunch of fights in arena, the crowd.
yeah, it's like Godoi. I mean, I remember like because I was in at this point. Godoi would say, "Yeah, when we had our gym together, he would call me master."
Yes.
And then like this is like on the news, and Macaco would respond through the news. When I see him, I'm gonna knock him out and then offer my hand to the master to pick him up. And
Yeah.
it was like the
It was a
news
bad blow.
loved
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
And they lived in the same city.
Yeah. In the same city, and then they avoid. They knew, I guess, like especially in the beginning when the split first happened. I think they knew each other place they used to like to go and everything. So, otherwise, there will be a bunch of fights. But
Yeah, the
they
supermarket,
also had
the coffee
they also
shop.
have so much respect from each other. I feel like after a couple of years, I remember being when I made to UFC, I fought in UFC Brazil. I think it was Jaraguá do Sul, and I remember we're like in a hotel lobby, and everybody together. And then Godoy was with me, and Macaco was his with all the shoot box guys, and they just kept him respectful and casual. They're both professional as well, and so it's cool to see that they respect and they respect the room, they respect everybody else. So I respect between them.
I'd almost like to get him in the room together. Come on, man.
Everybody will be nervous. Like I was nervous. everybody knows what's gonna happen, but they kept it cool.
Wow. Wow. So they were also kind of known for their black belt ceremonies being
Yeah,
a little rough.
yeah, yeah, man. They have to change. They have to change. Even in Brazil, it was a little bit too hot for Brazil back then, and they people record and everything, so they'll have to really tape. They'll tape over the gym glass and everything, make sure nobody will see them. And there used to be like at least like 2-3 hours of terror over there. Even girls will get out black eyes and everything. So because of that, a lot of people quit when they got the brown belt. And thank God, because my promotion was a month before the regular ceremony. I didn't get the same treatment. I didn't get the they had the name, the samurai test, called the samurai test. And then a year later I came back to the gym. They want to do it again. I said, man, guess what? It was a year later. You guys not gonna do it. So I just ran away.
Yeah, I got my black belt. Sorry.
Man, because like they will let me participate when I was like, purple belt, brown belt, just to help. And then you just literally take those guys down like 100 times. They'll have to do MMA round with 3 guys. It was terrible. You literally just get beat up for 2 hours. And then if you survive, people will throw up, people pass out and everything. And then they'll be promoted.
You wake up with a black belt on. Yeah. But you're going out. Yeah, you're going out. So at the time of the split, did each coach call you, or did they just let the team decide who they were going with?
They called me, but they just put me aside in the gym. It was a very tense time. And then Godoi was the first one. I think first one was Macaco. They came talk to me, and I already knew it. Everybody already knew the split's gonna happen. And then then Godoi came talk to me as well. I still have a group of friends. There was 3 or 4 of us that we pretty much compete everything together. So I made a decision together as a team. So we just look at everything, and then we all young and want to be competitors and stuff. So man, we just gotta choose the best coach right now. And then we knew that Macaco still had a lot going on in his professional fighting life. That's the reason we decided to stay with Godoi.
Yeah, it was you, Marco Barboza, Bruno Frazato, and
yeah.
Roberto Tosi. You guys all went with Godoi.
Yes. At the time, I think Barboza already have left the team. He already had his own team, Barboza Jiu-Jitsu. He left probably he left a year before, 2 years before.
No.
Who kept the building? Who kept the location when they split?
Godoi kept the location, and then he had a business partner, and he ended up, had a problem with that guy, so he left and opened up his own team. I mean, he actually did a very smart move, moving to a very nicer area and a bigger gym. So, and his business partner at the time, they separated, and he created called Tempo Jiu-Jitsu, which is a pretty popular gym in São Paulo these days. But there was one of his students that became his business partner, so they had a split. And that's when G13 used to be called Godoi Jiu-Jitsu. And now that's when he left. He created a franchise with G13 BJJ, which is spreading all over right now. We have a bunch of affiliations in America. In Brazil, we have like hundreds of affiliations. If you see the belt promotion every November, he has to rent a gymnasium to do it. Can't do it in the gym. It's like every year. I think this year was almost like 3,000 people. It was promoted. Yeah. So he does a huge event every year.
Man,
dude, and you were there, like you're a kid, and one of the guys gives you a scholarship so you could train for free.
Yeah. So that was kind of hard. I mean, that was hard to swallow too, because I felt I feel like, that I owe him. And we met a couple of times. Obviously, he was very upset with me for that, because he thought it was going to be, not because of the scholarship, but I also, admire him, and I always, like to be guided under him, But I just felt that the Godoi would be a better,
choice.
Better choice for, and for me, I was right, for looking back 20 years later, I made a smart decision, And then his guys doing really well as well, so he's an amazing coach, But I just felt that Godoi, it was perfect. He stayed at the gym. We already have a place to train, and then, he guided me all the way to black belt and everything. To these days, right now I'm affiliated under him. He has affiliation in Raleigh, North Carolina. I go there time to time, So it's a great bond.
He does not do interviews, Macaco.
He does not?
No. I've tried for like
I wonder where
3
he's at.
years.
He's all over the place. I thought he was in Houston. They say
Dude,
he moved his in Orlando. I don't know where
got a
he's at.
divorce, then he leaves, but
Yeah.
I this is what I was told. Like I travel for BKFC. So like if I can't get somebody, I go to their gym and I
Yeah.
introduce myself and then I kind of bring them in. And the person that I had met, not in Texas, they said, nah, dude, he got divorced and left. Like he just see ya out of here.
Yeah, that sucks.
Did you ever roll with Charles the Bronx?
Man, never. First time I saw him compete was a brown belt, a tournament in São Paulo. He actually fought a friend of mine, man. He used to fight back in the day, one of those 3 fights in the same night. That's why he became actually when he made to UFC, he was already pretty famous in Brazil because he will fight those MMA fights. He'll do like 3 fights in the night and he'll win. And that's why he became Charles the Bronx, man. He was pretty popular, in Brazil. And then remember watching him competing with the gi as a brown belt. I said, God damn, man, this guy is special. His guard game was very slick and everything. And he was doing pretty much, those like lanky, longer legs guys, like kind of like upside down guard and very vicious with triangles and arm bars. And then when he made to the UFC, the one fight, I believe it was one fight before he made to UFC, he was in São Paulo. It was a friend of mine. I think he got a knee to the chest and he ended up choking my friend out. And so right there, man, I never got to roll with him, but I've been following him since the beginning. Yeah, it's pretty amazing career.
He's got a good reputation too.
Yeah, super. Yeah, everybody that talk, he's one of those super nice guys. Yeah,
that's what everybody says. Like
him is someone. He always had great coaches around him too, man. And then it's good to see him always with the same guys. That says a lot.
So you're all right. I looked at some of your early competitions, and sometimes there's mistakes. I collect like press releases from years and years ago, and one of the press releases that I saw, it had you listed from a gym in Boston Brazilian top team. So did you come in through Boston or did you come in through Philadelphia?
No, Philadelphia. I went from Brazil to Philly.
Okay, with Brad Daddis? Was it Brad Daddis?
First was Jared Weiner, and then I went to Brad Daddis.
Okay.
I'm right in front of the gym, so I think there's a fight going on outside. So might be some screams. We're in downtown San Diego.
Okay. Yeah. Where are you at now? Do you have your own gym?
No. We have a space here inside called the WEC Method. Yeah. So we have mats. We're actually here working on our cage and everything. We got mats stuff. Yeah. So right downtown San Diego.
Okay.
Guys, have been telling me, come check it out.
In the name one more time?
Called WEC Method. WEC Method. Dave the WEC was the creator of the workout, the Bolso Ball. So he has his own place called the WEC Method, and our gym is inside. Our mats is inside.
And you had mentioned the Pan Ams. You actually had a match with Thiago Alves in the Pan Ams.
No, I don't think so. No,
No?
Not Thiago. No. Because Thiago, I think he was heavier than me.
That's what I thought so too.
Yeah. Heavier than me back then. I'm probably heavier than him now.
Yeah, then now too. Right. So in 2004, you became a world champion at brown belt.
Brown belt, yeah.
How would you describe that tournament?
Man, it was amazing, man. It's funny because, that day, I didn't think I had my best performance, but I was able to, win every match, and it was a pretty close match. Every match, everybody was so high level. The year before, I had the best performance. I was about the purple belt, and I remember I had like 4 or 5 fights, and pretty much submit everybody going to the semis, and then the semis I lost by points. And then the year after was a brown belt. I didn't have the highest expectation because my first year as a brown belt. I still had the mentality. My first year, I'm going to see how it's going. And maybe next year I'll do better. But I was super well trained. When every fight was close, like a 2 points, 3 points, advantage. I remember my semifinals. I ended up closing the bracket with Bruno Frazato. I didn't win alone. We closed down, me and Bruno. And then because we were at the time, our coach didn't want us to fight, so pretty much he just gave me the gold and he stayed silver. He gave me the title and I gave him the medal.
That's cool.
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. When you went up against Fredson Pichau,
Yes. No, I don't think I ever fought Fred, so no.
it says I got it here, and I'm
Fred
getting my stuff
Paixão,
from.
I never fought, no.
Okay,
I
so
fought Mario Reis. I fought a lot of great names, but not Fred, so no.
all right, so I'm getting my information from online, and at this
Okay.
time, like in jiu-jitsu, not a lot of like good documentation exists
Oh,
for some of the matches.
got it.
The information I got was in 2005, after the Pichau match, you left teams to go to Gracie Barra. Is that not true?
No, that's not true. That's somebody else, yeah.
That's
Oh, you know
wild.
what? That's Fred's passion story, not mine. He left.
Okay.
He seemed to go to Gracie Barra. Yeah.
Okay. So they gotta get. Okay. You know what it is? They switched it. Okay. All right.
It's the internet.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
dude. That's why we're here. That's why
Right.
we're
Yeah,
here.
because Fred was from Manaus. So I think he moved from Manaus to Gracie Barra in Rio. And he ended up, and he used to live in Rio. So was André Galvão. André Galvão did the same thing. He was Gracie Barra. He lived with Fredson for a little bit. Then he left. He went to I think Brazil team or Czech
Either
man.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either way. So when you what was your motivation to come to the United States?
Man, motivation. I was 19. I just kind of like
Smart.
I didn't know what to do. Like I was brown belt as a world champion, so I knew that I was gonna get my black belt. So I just said, what is the best thing I should do now? If I stay in Brazil, I had to like try to figure out if I was gonna go to college or not. I had to find a job. And I said, no, I got an opportunity in America. I had to go there teach jiu-jitsu and compete. So I said, just go have fun. I talked to my parents. They gave me the green light to move. So that's why I ended up feeling a good friend of mine, Jared. I met him at the same time. We were trained for the Brazilian Nationals that year. So we were in Rio for 1 month. And every day he would invite me, man, come to feed, I will help out in the beginning and everything. So he was definitely the reason, because he invited me to move. So it was awesome. And then from there, since I come to Philadelphia, he's always helped me out and then make sure I was okay. Then that was the beginning of my journey there.
I'd like to see your first winter there.
Man, yeah, it was pretty much like right when I went November 2004. It was pretty like beginning of winter, I guess. In Philly, it was already like rainy and cold. It was pretty raw. Man, but I was like 19. Living in America, I was pretty happy. And the first time I remember like being like in the Sunday watching the Phillies game, all the Brazilians, and then so I saw it snow for the first time. That was pretty epic. I still remember. So I guess that was the coolest thing.
Yeah, Philly's a rough town.
It got old real quick.
Yeah. That winter it's no joke, man. Yeah, in 2005, I have you started teaching like at a Lloyd Irvin affiliate.
Affiliate, yeah. BJJ United, yeah.
How would you describe your relationship with Lloyd?
Man, it was cool, man. It was cool. He was pretty much, he was the headquarters, right, of the gym that I taught teach classes and stuff, taught class. So we go there, when eventually they left their affiliation, but before Lloyd was always known for the best training. So we have a bunch of guys there. He always flew everybody out for training camps and stuff. So when you go there, you do it. You're gonna have a super hard training and whatnot, And then I always kept good relationship with him. He's always cool with me.
So when they cut their, obviously Lloyd has dealt with controversies in the past. When BJJ United cut their affiliation, was that their choice, and you just because you taught there, you were part of it, or did you yourself also distance yourself?
No. It's their choice. So there was business between them. The owner of BJJ United wanted to create his own affiliation. He already pretty much had everybody in Pennsylvania and around Pennsylvania was under him already. So he just felt that he have enough name. That's when he created tag team BJJ. It was great at the time, man.
Yeah. And then you're switched to mixed martial arts, Extreme Challenge 81, July 28, 2007. Baba Shigeyasu from Japan.
Yeah.
That's no
cool
joke.
Fight, man. That was cool, yeah. And then he was 1-1 his record at the time. And that was my pro debut. It was my MMA debut. And it was one of those things, man. I said, man, truth is gonna do either I'm gonna win, I'm gonna like it, I'm gonna get I'm gonna get beaten. I'm gonna hate it. But I was pretty competitive, and it was exactly how I imagined it to be, man. I'll just control him. He was just like one of those like tough Japanese guys. He was okay everywhere, but I was able to like took him down a bunch of times, and I was just impressed, surprised because I couldn't finish him. I was pretty mad, but I had him in every submission, and he survived, and I got unanimous decision and victory. Yeah.
Man, have you looked at his first few fights? Like this guy's from
Yeah.
Japan. Next guy, Diego Jimenez, out of the Anthracite Combat Club. He's 3-0. Like his first few fights are actually pretty tough.
Yeah. My third fight was cool one was against Zach. He became my friend after. He actually made to the UFC as well, Zach Makowski. And then he was like at that time in Philadelphia, he was coming up with Eddie Alvarez, everybody, the Fight Factory. So for me, it was like, it was a cool win. After I beat him, I said, man, cool, man, I'm going to do good in MMA. Because he was a guy that I knew that he was a D1 wrestler. He had already had
TriStar.
He already had a
TriStar
couple
guy.
fights.
Yeah, TriStar guy.
He's from TriStar now, yeah.
Yeah.
After when he went to UFC, yeah. There's
Yeah,
also Marcelo Garcia black belt too, yeah.
So it's like, yeah. I mean, it's stud after stud. Guy you're not traveling from Japan without a big resume, and a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
To me, that's one of those fights where if you're in Japan, wait, he lost? You're like, what? So you beat Baba. Diego Jimenez is 3-0. I mean, he's got a win over Jeff Walker. Zach, he's 3-0, working out with Eddie Alvarez. That's good little, goes to TriStar, makes it in the UFC. You finish him with an arm triangle. And then you got Justin Robbins. Justin Robbins?
Yeah, from Matt Hughes. Yeah, Matt Hughes camp, yeah.
The Finney's Hit Squad, yeah.
Hit Squad.
And that was a cool event because that was the first ever MMA event on live TV on CBS. That was when Kimbo's Lytes was the main event. He fought Thompson. Yeah. Saw Thompson with the big ear. Then he knocked the guy ears off. That was a big fight. And that was for me. That was the first time I've been to big shows before. That was the first show. There was 30,000 people in the arena. It was like Gina Carano was in the car. There was so many stars at the time. So it literally was a pretty big event at the time.
Oh, it was a huge event.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Gary Shaw was talking trash to the UFC, and he's got a Showtime deal, and he's got funding, and he's a boxing guy. Like there was if there was some legitimate heat between organizations, and it kind of forced the UFC to really put forth a good product that the fans could understand and devour. And I largely attribute that at this time to Elite XC. But Justin Robbins, 8-4-1 out of Finney's Hit Squad. I mean, stud coaches, hard guy.
Yeah.
You finish him with a rear naked choke. And then he's got Bryan Caraway after that.
We had this fight with Bryan Caraway, yeah.
It's like one
that
after
was
another.
Cool. That fight was in Stockton, California. And I remember being walk around in Stockton. Everybody looked like Nate Diaz over here. Everybody's being muggy on the streets and everything. Stockton, California. I remember.
Matt, do you remember Caraway at this time?
Yeah. I mean, like where Wilson was, if you look at, he's new MMA fighter, but his jiu-jitsu credentials, and he's undefeated so far. That's a hard person to match up. I mean, I know from experience as a matchmaker, that's like, you have to fight tough opponents.
Yeah. There's no kind of like sitting in the shallow end and then kind of making your way to the deep end. Like you're off the diving board, sink or swim, bro. It is what it is.
I mean, so many others would say no to that fight. That's the thing. It's like, it'd be a hard guy to match up,
Yeah, Caraway's 9-2. He's training with Dennis Hallman, who look at Dennis Hallman's record and tell me it's not impressive. Like Dennis Hallman is legit as they come, and he's got like a crazy memory for moves. Matt Hume is very hard to work with as a fighter because he's always kind of on you. With Dennis Hallman, it was his favorite student because Matt would learn a move one time and perform it like he knew it. So Caraway's with Dennis Hallman in his corner, and man, that's probably your hardest fight. Like you really learn.
Yeah. It was a tough one.
Yeah. We learned a lot about you that fight. What was your takeaway from it?
It was one of those fights that, that's I think that's one of my first few fights. First fight that I said, man, I'm not gonna fight a guy that, he didn't have that much at the time. It was way better than I had no strike, so the little strike that he had, he used it really well, and then he just knew I was gonna try to take him down over and over, so he timed it well. And then one time he got me with the knee. He cut me the first time I've been cut. He got me with the knee. I was trying to take him down, and I knew I just had to be tough. He just couldn't stop my takedown. So, and he did a really good job. He scrambled and getting back up every time. But every time I go, I'll find a way. I'll take him down again. But I just knew that I just have to, man. Fortunately, my striking wasn't there. I couldn't do anything related to strikes. I just have to take him down over and over. And they tried to get close to a submission. And he was really slick on the ground, very hard to hold. And I would advance to his back, to mount, and he would do a really good job getting up every time. So it was good. It was it was a fight that I had to be tough. I had to be mentally tough, and I had to dig deep. I had a couple. When he knee me in the head and I fell, I got close to get a TKO. We stopped and just kept moving and recover, and took him down again.
Do you think he was greased?
He was what?
Greased, like oil?
No, I don't think so.
Because he kept getting up over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I was just
I
like,
mean,
man, you
I
couldn't.
I never fought anybody. At least, it's so hard. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's pretty easy to tell, but in a crazy pace of a 5 minute, couldn't realize, couldn't figure that out. There was the last thing in my mind was if it's grease or not, but he was getting up every time.
Yeah, like it was you've got a really good top game, and
And
he just kept.
he also like a pretty good wrestler too, so that
That's true.
it was hard to hold him down, hard to hold the wrestler down.
So, Matt, at this point, there's a lot going on in MMA. Right. So this fight was July 26, 2008. So we're at the end of the month. Before the end of the month, before the end of July is over, Elite XC, they have a meeting, and it is shown that they have lost $27 million up until this point.
They lost?
Yeah. And the company is only 16 months old. So you got a guy like you who's got a high ceiling. You're making your name, you're making money, you're actually able to live while fighting. And then the company is just like, yeah, I think we're in trouble at this point. Do you remember hearing the news about Elite XC having financial issues?
No, I did not. The only time I heard it was when they were over. The October show, Kimmy's Rice, supposed Kimmy's Rice got knocked out by that guy, and then I guess he got knocked out, and then apparently he went on the mic and he was telling that they gave him 30 grand to keep the fight standard, and that was it. That's when they lost the CBS deal, that's what I heard.
Yeah, I've been trying to get Seth for a couple of years as well. All right, so you're supposed to fight Bao Quash on Showtime XC. It's at 140 pounds.
Yes.
You seem to be having issues with either weight cut or where you're supposed to be.
I think it was a medical problem I had at the time.
Yeah, you're supposed to fight Bao Quash, and they slide in.
Yeah, the fight got canceled really last minute. Yeah.
And Abel Cullum, dude, Abel Cullum is 13-1. Dude, Abel Cullum's legit.
Yeah.
That's a hard fight, man.
Yeah. And that was for the belt. That's for the Lyrics belt. And that was in September.
In Abel, at this time, in real time, he's the 135-pound King of the Cage champion.
King of the Cage, yeah.
So it's
from New Mexico, yeah.
To me, it appears that there's two people in the top 3 in the world fighting each other.
Yeah, man, that was awesome, man. Abel was definitely a very important fight. I know that he had a lot of more experience than me, But I mean, I always trust my jiu-jitsu. I always trust my jiu-jitsu. Everything, coming from a bracket, tournament bracket, where you got beat 5-6 guys in one tournament to win, So I think that definitely gave me so much confidence, going to MMA. MMA got one match, and you got one fight. You got a month to train for. So I think that was the biggest for me, that I felt was advantage that I had. I've been used to being in the bracket, so that gave me so much confidence, And then I do make when I get those guys, they had more experience and everything. But I also trained full time in a good training camp at the time. I was training at Daddy's Fight Camp, which is a great training camp in Philadelphia back then. And so I was very confident. Very confident. I had a great team. I have a great training. And I'll cross train a bunch. I'll go to Fight Factory. I would train with Eddie Alvarez. I would train anybody that I could.
With this though, Robert Godoi was supposed to be in your corner and got sick and canceled last minute.
Yes. It's been a few times. But
Wow.
he be in my corner for the majority of my UFC fights.
Yeah. Did you get a lot of ring time with Eddie Alvarez?
I got a lot of ring time at Eddie Alvarez, man. Which amazing guy, man. Amazing. He always we did strength condition together, and then I'll go to his gym time to time, And a couple of times I got to train with him and train with Frank Yeager because Frank Yeager will come to help Eddie as well, man. So I got to get rounds of Frank Yeager. There's a round I'll never forget, when he at his prime, when he was the king at 155 in UFC. So I have so much. I always cross train, man. I love cross training, people in town and everything. So I feel like that's a huge part of my success. Of everybody that I train with, I get a little bit from everybody.
Man, can you imagine watching a round robin between Eddie Alvarez, Frankie Edgar, and Wilson?
Oh no, yeah. I mean, you guys have similar styles, but styles that are different enough where you can help each other out. Obviously, I mean his stand up, and then Frankie a little bit. Both you guys and Wilson, a true jiu-jitsu specialist. I mean, that's what you need to develop each other, and that's such a good. And obviously, you guys are all roughly around the same size too.
Yeah,
that's talk about iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, dude, they beat the shit out of each other, and I never saw it. I know that they did for sure. They did. Yeah. Wow. So Matt Stansell, okay, so Showtime XC closes. You sign with Bellator, but it's kind of controversial. So Bjorn Rebney starts Bellator.
Yes.
Does he recommend you get managed by Matt Stansell?
No. Actually, that happened because Matt Stansell used to manage Brandon Vera at the time. So then Brandon, I think, was the reason I ended up signing with Matt Stansell because he was friends with Lloyd Irvin. Lloyd was actually the one that recommended to Matt. And Matt, he ended up having problem with all the fighters. But with me, man, he was always nice, always honest. Got me a really good deal with Bellator. So he actually got me out my Elite XC contract was pretty bad. At the time that I fought for the title, I only got paid 4-4. So
Oof.
it was the beginning of my career. So I ended up, and I had no manager, so I just signed everything in the beginning. This is my first. When I fought Zach, it was my third fight. I thought it was gonna be just one fight deal, right? So I signed for 2 and 2, and then they locked me in the contract that I couldn't get out of, So then they had the right to extend because it was supposed to be like a local fight, They came to LA City, and then when I signed the NXT contract, they ended up being terrible for me. So when they went out of business, and I was a champion. For me, it was a blessing. Because then I had a belt, and then I had a reputation ready. So I was able to sign with Bellator. So Matt made that happen. So I was really grateful for him.
Let's go.
The one controversial thing with Matt is so Bjorn Rebney starts Bellator. He brings in Matt Stansell as a matchmaker, and Matt Stansell also managed.
Right, that's right. You're right.
He also managed the guys. So he'd get, I mean, to his credit, he was getting good contracts, but then he was it was proven that he was kicking up to Bjorn. It was one of the reasons that Rebney had to step down.
But at the same time, man, he, at least for us here in the Southern California, he helped everybody. He got everybody fights. So nobody would hate on him,
No, for sure. What kind of percentage were you paying him, if you don't mind me asking?
Like every manager, 20%, because he was
so much.
Yeah. It was 20%. That I think 20%. Yeah, I think it was 20%. That.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
that's a lot of money.
Well, he was the only manager that gave me a sponsorship deal. When I was manager under him, I was ever I got paid more from his sponsors than I got paid from the fights. I had literally, I think, $3 or $4 grand that was the beginning of my career. I got 3 or 4 grand of sponsorship every month. So he got me paid for sponsorships.
You know, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? I pay it. Yeah.
So that was a good deal. Every manager after that, they only give me sponsorship per fight. But he's the one that I was with him for a couple of years. And from Elite C, about say 2 years, I was getting like 2 or 3 grand a month for sponsorship. The year that I signed, I was the champion. I was never get 3 or 4 grand a month, from sponsorship. So that was a huge deal.
Yeah, you can, and you know what? He gave you good fights too. Like I thought he did a really good job with your career. I mean, it was North County Fight Club management. He had you, Tara La Rosa. He had a decent little lineup, and
he had a lot of fights with fighters.
Yeah, and he kept you busy. Like here, Henry Martinez 6-0. That's at Bellator too. At the second Bellator, I had heard it was still at this time it was pretty unorganized. How was your take from that?
Well, as far as the event itself, for me, like it was okay, it was good. Yeah, I didn't have a problem with the tournament itself. It was the team, the manager and everything. And I think I fought Bellator my second fight. When the tournament was stacked, and I fought Joe Soto, and that was my first loss. And I think I was undefeated up to that point, and that was my first loss. It was Joe.
Yeah, Joe, that was actually looked at as the tournament's biggest
He's very
upset.
smart with his strategy. He used the strike that he had. He just used to keep me away, and then he didn't try to take me down. He just defended my takedowns, and he out striking me, and so he beat me on decision.
Yeah, he was 5-0. Roberto Vargas is 6-0 after that. Like you've got some.
Roberto Vargas was a fun fight, man, because he was just like one of those Mexican guy, crazy style coming forward, And I was actually really surprised that won the fight because in my mind it was a close fight. The same man, that one couldn't go either way. I think I had a very good turnaround, and I took him down a bunch, but he actually hurt me. He landed a lot of good shots. He was just one of those like hard guy to hold it down. And I remember that he landed a lot of strikes on me as well. So when I went to the split decision, I was like, God damn, I don't know if I had it.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you locked in the cage, Dwayne Shelton. It's kind of more of a regional thing, and then you go back into Bellator.
Because that was I think it was the first season that they said that Bellator wasn't coming back for another 6-7 months. I said, man, I'm gonna make money, So then the Bellator allowed me to get a fight outside in the regional shows, so I can make money, sell tickets and whatnot, So I had to do the fight. Yeah.
Did you ever see Hector Lombard at these?
I saw him a bunch. Yeah, we would do this promotion videos for Bellator.
Yeah.
And they'll put us, for a couple of days in a hotel and do a bunch of video shots. And then twice or 3 times at those occasions, Hector was there.
Did you ever hang out with him or anything?
I hang out, man. Yeah, it was really nice. I still got to see him here and then, and around MMA, he always come say hi,
Yeah, he was a loose cannon. Yeah, he's not somebody you want to be on their bad side. That's for sure.
100%. Yeah.
What about Alex Vila? Did you ever get on the same mat as Alex Vila?
No. We were in the same bracket, I believe, one or twice, but we never got to fight each other.
I really always wanted to, even if it's just grappling, I always wanted to see you and Alex.
Yeah.
Kind of settle it.
And he was very slick, man. He was a 40-year-old guy. He was the oldest guy in the bracket, and him and Joe Warren. And I think he beat Joe Warren once. I think he beat Joe Warren. Yeah, but he was good. He was very good, very slick.
You actually switched to KO reps right after your fight with Chad Learley.
Yes.
What was the reason for that?
I think the KO rep they only did sponsorship. They only did my fight shorts and gear. Yeah.
Okay. So Stansell, you're doing both. Okay.
A personal friend that was my manager at the time. Yeah.
How would you describe your fight with Patricio Pitbul, May 13, 2010? He's 13-0. I mean, you guys are.
Yeah, I think that's the second time that we fought. No, the first time we fought, right?
Yeah.
First time, yeah. Man, at the time, man, I knew he was slick, man. He was a great kickboxer, great striking, and I remember I just couldn't, I just couldn't find myself in the fight. He kept me away with the strike and the kicks, and I remember that he definitely broke one of my ribs in the fight, and I remember struggling a couple of weeks after the fight, just with the rib pain and everything. And he was, he's slick. He's slick and a heavy hitter, But I knew that I could have beat him, man. It was one of those fights. I said, man, I couldn't get his time right. So the second time that we fought, I believe I did much better.
It seemed with like Americans, or anybody else, you did very well. But on the bigger show, you struggled with other Brazilian athletes. Was that because they kind of understood your game, or were there other reasons?
Oh man, I think it's just styles. I think it's just
Yeah.
never like more nervous or less nervous when I fought Brazilian. It just there's why it's funny because if you count out of all my loss, I lost most of the guys I lost was Brazilian. I think like 80% of the loss. But that just show the talent and the strategy, game plan and whatnot. I feel like.
One of your training partners over at Daddy's was Matt Makowski.
Yeah.
Makowski.
Dude, he's got wins over Joe Schilling and Nick Serra.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, he had good. Yeah, he got a good run on Elite XC as well.
Yeah, the Nick Serra fight was the event that you fought at Elite XC. Same fight card.
Yeah.
I think it was like right after yours, right before your fight.
Yeah.
Makowski was legit.
When I fought he also fought Matt Serra's brother too.
That was the one, Nick Serra.
Yeah,
that was the Elite XC card that you were on. Yeah.
And he fought, and then when I fought for the title, I believe he fought too. He fought one of those California guys, just pretty tough at the time. I forgot the kid's name.
Yeah, Jared Weiner too. From you rolled with him at BJJ United, another tough guy.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, Jared's awesome. He always he's good friend, great coach. He coached me a lot in jiu-jitsu, and even for my MMA fights. I think he himself had one fight. He won, but he didn't want to do it again. At least he's undefeated.
Yeah. You used to use the X guard in mixed martial arts, and like Jeremy Horn used it with Paul Harris. Shaolin obviously was very successful.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's not more, I guess, more well received, with mixed martial arts?
What, the half guard, you mean?
The X guard, yeah.
Oh, the X guard, yeah. I feel, man, that nowadays there's so much, so much footage, people watch the game plan, they know how to stop the technique, and I feel for MMA, if you depend of your body type, you can still do it, like foot locks and guard and stuff, but if you don't get a sweep or a finish, you lose in the fight. Nobody cares. And if you're on the bottom, you lose in the fight. That's why a lot of people don't want to risk. They want to be on the bottom, because if the guy defending and he just touch on the ground, the pound, he's winning the round. So I feel that's why people don't risk as much on the bottom unless they'll go for submission. I don't think they'll try to work on sweeps and everything. But at least for me, beginning with jiu-jitsu for me is natural. If I get hurt, I've been knocked down before, right away I went to half guard or extra, because I know that will save me time to recover.
Yeah, Deividas Tarasevicius, also an absolute stud, 13-4. Like you're fighting killers. Like you have.
Yeah, I always have. It's for a good fighter. That was a good fight. I mean, that was a very memorable fight because that was in Philadelphia. That was at Temple University for Bellator, and then he was fresh from WEC, man. He was a good competitor at WEC. He fought some great people out there, and so I was very excited when I beat him, And that was at 145, nice fight. Beginning of my career, most of the fights was 145, and he was a very strong guy for 45. So definitely happy that I beat him. So I said, if I beat him, I can beat a lot of guys, because he was very tough. He had some good wins under his record too.
Yeah, and even like Zach George. Zach George was 19-3. That's your next bout. He's a member of Team Quest, high-end wrestler. I couldn't believe how one-sided that fight was. Like I was excited about watching it, thinking it was just going to be kind of a back and forth battle, and it was not.
Yeah, yeah. I think I caught him with something right away. I think I caught him with the strike and I dropped him. And then no, I caught him with the strike and I took him down. And then from that, just kept the pressure and ended up choking, man.
Yeah, legit tough dude too.
Yeah.
Zach is not.
Yeah.
He's actually legitimately very, very tough. And
I mean, he's from Oklahoma, wrestled through high school there. I don't know where he wrestled in college. You got a tough Oklahoma wrestler going to Team Quest to sharpen his skills. That's not an easy task, and a guy who's not going to quit unless Wilson, like rear naked choke, put him to sleep, but otherwise he's not going to lay down.
No.
Yeah.
No, like I think that's one of those fights on your record that people overlook. No, man, dude's legit. He's legit. And even Patricio Pitbul, you get a rematch against him. It's just like you said, styles, man.
And then that rematch, man, that was really because I remember being very confident and remember being a very tough fight, but I was winning the rounds. And then until I got finished, I think it was in the third round. It was going to the third round, I believe I think I won both rounds. First round was kind of like tough, but the second round I took him down and everything. So I was doing pretty well, man. Until he got me. I think he switched stance. He got me with his lead hand, but it was originally his right hand. And I remember that he got me with the first punch, and I was pretty wobble, and then he kept going. And man, that was a hard finish. I think he hit me like 45 times before he knocked me out.
No. Yeah, that was hard. That was hard. You had a canceled fight against Farkhad Sharipov.
Oh yeah, they offered me to fight him years later. Yeah, Sharipov. Yeah, I remember that guy.
And you end up with Eduardo Dantas. And
it's a tough fight, yeah. And that was just one fight that I had a bad, I think that's supposed to be my first fight at 135. And there was just a bad training camp, I knew it and how Dante was a stud, no, yeah, that was like the fight that I hate the most. One of the fights I hate because I wasn't there, physically. Mentally I was, but physically I wasn't. Should have never took the fight.
Yeah, well, you got to kind of look, Matt. You and I, we kind of scout. You obviously match made for quite a few years. When you see somebody that's just got like a championship caliber of like their background and their history, you see them take 2 losses in a row. Man, sometimes they don't bounce back.
Right.
Especially,
a lot of people will think, okay, that's the end of the road. That he's done.
Yeah.
And a lot of fighters will believe that, and they say, "Oh, I'm done. I'm going to move on." When they maybe shouldn't have.
I mean, I feel like for me, in still the beginning of my career, still like 3 years in MMA, at that point. So I know I still so much to learn and so much to gain,
And you haven't even you haven't had an easy fight. Like you're just deep into the pool. Good luck. Sometimes your body needs to heal a little bit. Take a little time off. Let things kind of settle in place. You and Dan Hornbuckle are the first 2 people ever to get released by Bellator ever.
Yeah.
That's one of those weird distinctions. And Bruno Menezes, he's 9-4. WFE, it's for the title. You finally get back to Brazil. What's it like going home and fighting in Brazil for the first time?
That was cool, man. That was cool. And I remember my coach in Brazil, the Godoi, for example, he said, man, should have done that. We doing coming back to Brazil, because nobody will go to Brazil from Brazil want to come to American fight, But because I began my career in America, I just want to make sure I go to Brazil, find the local show to see what it's like, Because I think at the point I lost to Patricio twice. I think I lost to Eduardo, so 3 Brazilian losses. I just want to go back to Brazil and fight one time in Brazil and see what it's like, And then it ended up being a very good show, man. They paid me pretty well for the time, and I got a good fight, man. I got one of those tough guys in Brazil. Bruno had a pretty good reputation in Brazil.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Also, he was one of those guys that will fight jungle fight.
It's durable.
Fight, yeah, very durable fighter. Yeah.
Durable fighter. Yeah. A good match. A good match to kind of get your head right.
Exactly. Yeah, it was perfect. It's like how I felt the fight was going to go. I thought he was tough, but he wasn't great anywhere, But then when he was trying to take me down, surprising because when I watch his fights, he's a great striker. Not great striker, but he would just make strike with those guys. And then when he tried to take me down, that's when I reversed the situation. I do want a wrestling move. I take his back. I think the fight's like 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah. After that, you go to the Ultimate Fighter season 16. You're one of the assistant coaches.
Yeah.
That's an incredible honor.
Yes. Because at the time, I'll come to San Diego and do training camps, help Dominique, and whenever he had a fight, I'll come here to pretty much to every training camp that he had. So we had a pretty good relationship. And then Tarek, when they got picked for the Ultimate Fighter, he knew that I was gonna. He actually got pretty much the whole camp together, and then we reversed. Who coached one day, who coached the other day. We pretty much moved our camp to Vegas for like 2 months, 3 months actually. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
What gym were you guys? Was it? I heard Syndicate. Were you working at a Syndicate or somewhere else?
I think we work out Syndicate, and then it was Syndicate at one point, and there was another camp. That we go. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, Robert Drysdale for a while. Then
I was about to ask about Drysdale.
Yeah. Yeah, Drysdale's another stud. Yeah.
The gym, I think it was like a private gym, and we ended up going. I don't think we went Syndicate. I think we went to Drysdale and went to another team. But,
okay. Yeah, it was you, Lloyd Irvin, Phil Davis. You guys also had Myles Jury on your team.
yes, they had Myles. He actually was just here. He was helping Jeremy Stevens for his fight. Jeremy's fighting next week in Des Moines, Iowa for UFC. And then he's a good friend with Jeremy. So he was here helping for the camp.
Do you think he's kind of misunderstood, Myles Jury?
Yeah. He had a great run until he fought Cowboy. I think after the Cowboy, he couldn't get back to the same rhythm. It feels like, at least for me, because he was beating everybody. He was undefeated before he fought Cowboy, and after the fight, he couldn't get a good winning streak together.
Yeah, it's like he had issues with marijuana. Like,
I didn't remember.
That was Myles, wasn't it, Matt?
I don't remember.
I thought he had some issues with some weed. I might be wrong.
From the commission or
from the commission? Yeah.
Especially back then, but I think back then they'll test you for weed back then. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they were. But I don't remember it was Jury.
You know what? Let's scratch that. I think I'm kind of crossing paths with? I think I'm crossing paths with him and the dude that went to WWE.
Matt Riddle.
Matt Riddle. Yep, I got it confused. Please.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to talk to the editor from that one. That's 100% on me. I got my wires crossed. Yeah, I mean, he had a good experience on Tough. You go back to Matrix fights. Your original opponent's Billy Vaughn. You end up fighting Cody Stevenson. At 9-4 to mainstream MMA. So you're actually getting the fights.
I think Billy Vaughn was funny because he was one of those guys that, you literally he would just fight. Yeah, I said, I need the wins. Let me just fight Billy Vaughn. He's a great striker. If you take him down, fight's over. I think the fight lasts like, I don't know, 1 round. But he was the one that was joining me in MMA. He's like, I don't know, I think he's 40. It's like he had so many fights.
And you know what? The fighters need people like that to stay at.
Yeah. And especially you at this point. Listen, man, we got this high-powered car. We just got to rebuild it, change the oil, and let's put him back out on the racetrack. I mean, then that's what Billy Vaughn does. Like Billy Vaughn, hey man, I got a ton of respect for guys like that out of Buckeye MMA, a gym that's still open today, I might add. Yeah. You end up going over to Europe, Cage Warriors, obviously one of the biggest probably the biggest organization in Europe. And you fight Owen Roddy. That's 11-3.
Yeah. That was a good fight, man, because I knew that I was getting real close to UFC, So it's one of those points that, I mean, you can't lose this fight. No, I had that, I had the thought that, I mean, I came over here and I knew it. If I let the fight go to a decision, I was going to lose that fight, right? So I just have to turn it up, and thank God I was able to drop him in the third round and get submission. But I thought I was going to finish in the first round, got really close to finishing the first round. Second round, I kind of got tired, So I just tried to kind of like recover a little bit in the second round. So the third round, come back fresh, and then it worked. I look like, came back good and landed a good hook and drop him, and then finish with I think it was a really good choke. Yeah.
Hey, there was a little bit of a weight disparity there. You were 140, he was 135. Was there some confusion?
No, I missed to wait for the fight. Yeah, that was on that was on me. I lost. It was like traveling, and I think that was 3 weeks after I fought in Matrix 2. I think it was like kind of short notice, and then I just took the fight, and then unfortunately when I got there, it was freezing, man, very cold in Glasgow. It was snowing, and the sauna they had, the sauna was like not even like like warm. I couldn't sweat, so yeah. It was a bad one. It was a bad weight cut. Yeah.
Yeah, Europe is just different. Yeah. When you get the call to the UFC, and we're going to wrap it up. When you get call to the UFC, you were supposed to fight Hugo Viana September 4, 2013.
Yeah.
And that got canceled.
And that was a 2 weeks notice, man. So I kind of like happy and glad it got canceled. I was gonna make weight and everything. I was worried because I knew I was close to make UFC, so I was in camp. But it was it was shorter than I expected. But then when I got another month, I was pretty happy. Especially to fight in such a big card, in Montreal. Montreal, no, in Toronto.
In Toronto, yeah.
Yeah, that original fight was like a double injury. He was supposed to replace he replaced Johnny Bedford, who got injured, and then Hugo gets injured like a week or so later, right?
And I replaced, the guy that passed away, Japanese fighter, like a legend. His name Yamamoto, Kid Yamamoto. Right. I replaced my UFC debut to fight Ivan Menjivar.
For that one,
Yamamoto was, dude, he was actually sick at this time. He just didn't know it.
Yeah.
Legend, Kid Yamamoto. Mm-hmm. And Ivan Menjivar.
He was sick at the time, no?
Yeah. And Ivan Menjivar, I think just the weight classes came a little too late for him. Like Ivan Menjivar is a legend, like a 145-pound legend.
He fought a lot of heavy, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite the baptism into the UFC, a fight with Menjivar.
Man, that fight was very special, man. Because first fight in UFC, he fight somebody. I think Ivan was a top 10 at the time. In a sold out event, in a huge, man. Like, that was one. I think that was the only show that I experienced. Like, all the fans come over whenever you sign autographs. The Canadian fans were pretty diehard fans, so it was a huge experience. It was a great week, and then I got to win my UFC debut, and I remember me just being so happy that I won, in UFC. That means I'm in UFC now, and I got to watch the main event with John Jones and Gustafsson, which is epic fight. So that was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to make it to the UFC. It's even harder to get your hand raised there.
Yeah, especially your first fight. I remember it was funny. I did, I thought, the fight wasn't the greatest fight to watch. It was kind of maybe not boring, but I got to do what I got to do, man. I got to win. And I knew I couldn't risk because he was a dangerous fighter, And, so I had a lot of respect for Ivan. And I remember asking Sean Shelby afterwards, the matchmaker, said, "Man, you like the fight?" So the fight was terrible. And I can't tell you, those guys are hard to impress.
Yeah, they're hard to impress. Were they ever kind of rude to you, or was it always professional?
No, they were rude, just cold. He was just no, he's no, there was no he was just he was. I feel like he was just honest. That's how he is.
I think at some point, Matt, I think you'll agree with this. At some point, when you match make at real high levels, and you're maybe a little burned out, you don't deliver messages as well as you used to.
I mean, my opinion on it is, if he didn't like it, he could get in there and show him how it's done. I mean, I don't like the critiquing from the sidelines too much.
Yeah.
As a former fighter myself, but I mean, but no, I know what you mean. But yeah, Mike, you're right. It is easy to kind of, especially at that volume, to kind of get a little bit bitter. But hey, it's a fight. It's
sometimes it's just, all you gotta do is just pause and kind of try to connect with the person and just say, hey man, man, I don't know. I don't want to go on a tangent, but like, it's like, all you got to do is just be a little gentle with it. You can deliver the same exact message without that person walking away saying, hey man, the guy's kind of a dick.
It's simply by saying, I hope to see a crazy submission out of you next time or something. And it's,
let's work on your finish. Let's work on your finish, Wilson.
You put a nicer way, but at the same time, I understood the message and I knew that, say, man, like, if I want to be here, I gotta turn it up, you gotta take risk, you gotta, there's at that point, I still think MMA is like a fight, right? Competition. I didn't have like I don't think I ever, until later I realized it's you have to entertain, you have to get fans, you have to talk shit and everything, and then I just not the guy, So then for me, it was always a competition, man. I just have to win. And if I win, it's got no matter how you win, as long as you win, right? But obviously, and there was times that I couldn't take a more risk, and put in a better show, But for me, win is more important. And a couple of times they say, man, I don't have enough in the tank, so I'm just gonna take this guy down and find a way to keep him down.
And the miles that you got on you up until this point, bro, like you're walking around hurt 24/7. There's something that's a little bothering you at that time. So by the time, like, sometimes these guys now, they have maybe 4 or 5 fights. They're in their UFC. Their bodies are still healthy.
Yeah.
Look at your body at work. Not easy. Not easy. Wilson, any advice? This is your before the UFC interview. What advice would you give for any fighters in today's age?
Man, in today, man, I feel like the advice I always give, man, everybody. Say, do your research for training camp, because training camp, man, is definitely, find a good training camp. If you have, a coach that you trust, you gotta find the people around. If you only stay in the city, you gotta get a team together, right? You gotta get a grappler coach, you gotta get MMA coach, you gotta get like a striking coach and whatnot. But when you have an opportunity to go to a training camp, yeah, I think it's the route to get good fights and to make to a bigger shows. Always find a good training camp, So that's my thing. I always make sure I was in a good gym when I compete in jiu-jitsu, and MMA the same thing. Man, find a coach that you trust, find a training camp, and just believe in your skills, man. And I feel like the invest in your early fights. We have like a amateur career. I didn't have an amateur career. I wish I had an amateur. I think amateur career is important. Get a couple fights, get like 10, 15 fights. Maybe you can fight every month if you can, And then after that, you start building your pro record, So there's no rush, I mean, it is a no rush if you're younger. If you're older, there's a rush. But you have to be smart about, taking fights and then be ready to, be in a camp. Just take it professional, man, train twice a day. Nowadays, nobody just like, I feel that more and more is more professional. Guys are dedicated 100% of their time to compete. So if you want to compete and if you want to make to the highest level, you have to sacrifice. You have to train a couple of times a day. You have to go to a good training camp. That's my advice.
Yeah, all in. You got to be all in.
All in, yes.
All in.
If you want to make it, man, I hate it. Like, like guys that just want to take fights. I say, man, it's a very dangerous sport. You don't want to take one fight, could be your last fight. So you just gotta make sure, you want to make to the next big show. So you don't want to just be the guy that local, be a local legend, local hero. You want to make to the big event.
Listen, Hayes, after this, you go on an incredible UFC run that puts you in a world championship fight against one of the sport's all-time greats. The work that you put forth towards getting there is I think the beginning of your career really sums it up. It's like you were given this, you took this because you earned it. Yeah. Wilson, appreciate your time, brother. I really appreciate this.
Appreciate you guys, man. Time, good talk, and then hey, I'll be here anytime. Guys, hit me up. We'll do this again.
100%. Dude, Matt, I think we owe it to give it a couple months. We'll revisit your UFC run. Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you, Wilson.
Appreciate you guys, man. You guys have a good one.
You too. All right. So here, why don't we here? Let's talk about our relationship. How do we know each other, Matt? How would you describe it?
So I fought for Mike. My first fight was in 2009, October 21st. We met each other at a different event at a Duneland Classic out in it was possibly Valparaiso, Indiana, somewhere over there. Long before I had my first fight, but you were promoting the Brawl at Bourbon Street fights, which were just a block behind my house. And I recently was working there at the time. So I really wanted to fight at Bourbon Street. And that was partially one of the reasons why I even switched gyms to train at a gym that was often fighting at Mike's event here. And before I did that, I was working regionally as a matchmaker and, doing all that fun stuff. So I kind of transferred all that and offering it a couple of years later to Mike, as well as my matchmaking ability and just like general overseeing on regional events. So
let me set the table on this. You guys, if you guys want to talk about regional MMA in terms of the Chicagoland area, this dude's like Rain Man. There's a mental illness in regards to his understanding of somebody that's 0-0 and where they're at, their ability and understanding. The fights that we had at Bourbon Street between people maybe that didn't have like any record whatsoever, on the amateur side, you were able to kind of like hone it in so much to where it blurred the line of, is this amateur or professional?
Right.
Because you certainly had issues kind of understanding what it was. So we would just like omit records and people would think they just saw one of the best professional shows they had ever seen.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I after doing it and after really understanding coaches and gyms and backgrounds and so on and so forth, which gyms and which coaches throw somebody out after 3 months and have them fight, which of them make their guys wait 10 years before they fight. It was like, I didn't necessarily need to know who the fighter was. I just needed to know where they were coming from to make good matches. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So, Matt, why don't we talk about what you're doing, your gym, seminars, and stuff like that?
Yeah, I own Crimson Guard Brazilian Jiu Jitsu in Oak Lawn, Illinois. Brazilian Jiu Jitsu under Mark Lehman. I got about 160, 170 students over there. I run a grappling expo event. It's called Nitro Grappling Expo. We have one coming up May 31st at the Oak Lawn Pavilion. So we have super fights. Jeff Kern is actually going to be headlining that against Mike Reyna. And then earlier in the daytime, what makes it more than just a super fight card is I always do like a grand seminar. So we have Gary Tonin coming in for this one. The previous one, we had a super seminar of Josh Barnett, Mark Lehman, Dean Lister, Gio Martinez all in one. Gary Tonin gets the entire floor to himself. And these are just growing and it's getting pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. So Matt and I immediately bonded because of our love for history. He's also, I mean, you're not consistent with your output on it, but you've got like a Chicagoland mixed martial arts history podcast. It's actually pretty freaking good. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I only do it when I'm like, if I know I'm gonna get some free time and my fiance is not gonna be around that day and I'm just kind of gonna be bored on a Saturday evening. It's very random, but it is cool. And for those local, especially like back in the day, early to mid 2000 era, I like kind of sharing their stories.
Yeah, dude, it's super cool. Like the process is real similar to this, but it's more of like on a micro Chicagoland area, which I mean, at one point at the 135-pound weight class, the world title, like 3 of the first 4 champions were all lived within driving distance of each other. And the belt was in California, and they were trying. Yeah,
Torres.
Yeah, Eddie Wineland, Chase Beebe, and Miguel Torres. Yeah, and that, literally. Yeah. So Matt has like been like a right-hand man of mine. Like I can't tell you how many therapy sessions he and I have had with each other. Sometimes it's him listening and me yelling and vice versa. But no, Matt. And Matt, you also sponsor Wilson. You've got Nitro Fight Gear.
Yeah, so that like that Nitro Grappling Expo stemmed from a gi company I have, and we do mostly gis, rash guards. We do fight shorts and we do supplements as well. Called Nitro Fightwear. Everything's on Amazon at the Amazon warehouse. We have some pretty cool stuff up. Nothing too flashy, nothing too boring. I like it right in the middle, and people buy daily from all over the country. We get, sales internationally too. I like seeing it, but yeah, that's how I knew Wilson, is I sent him a bunch of stuff. He's got a gi of ours. He's got a rash guard, really good guy.
Yeah. Really good guy. Man, I have a feeling we're going to be seeing more of you and some of the athletes that you sponsor.
Possibly.
Awesome, Matt. Thank you so much. Like I said, you pieced this all together. You helped me with the timeline, and like, just so everybody at home can kind of understand, like when we approach this, like we have an entire timeline where, all right, here's the gold, here's the good. Sometimes when that gold is right up front, there's not like a comfortability of like in an exchange yet, and you're going to get an answer, but it's going to be short and not as good. So that's why we kind of front loaded this interview. Like it was kind of Matt's idea, with the 4 grapplers, Gary Tonin, Ryan Hall, those guys. It's like, no, let's front load that, get them comfortable, and then get into the Godoi Macaco split, which was huge at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Pretty good how that worked out. Matt Giancarlo, I'm sure I'll be seeing you in person probably within the next 10 days.
Sounds good.
Be good, brother.